and the company is Netflix. This must have been 15 years ago when they were transitioning from sending you CDs in the mail, DVDs in the mail, to streaming. Now, looking back, it's so obvious. Yes, they're going to do streaming. I thought Netflix was going to zero. Hello, welcome to the Amazing Marketing Show with Dmitri Smirnov and Chris Gray. It's another episode where we're going to disagree quite a bit because surprisingly, and I didn't realize this, but we kind of disagree on maybe way more than we thought we did. But we got some marketing news as always, and since this is the Amazing Marketing Show, we talk about all things marketing, and everything is marketing. So here we go. Chris Gray, how are you?
Dmitri, what up, man?
Well, it's been too long, I will say. It's been already about a day since I saw you in person. And I'd say that's too long. But we just went to an event together, which was great, in my opinion. And we're just talking offline about how we're now needing to catch up on our long to-do list that have added up over the course of these few days. But curious to hear your take on how do you think it went and how are you feeling?
I think it was dope. Dmitri and I are a member of a mastermind. If you don't know what a mastermind is, think of a group of people who are like-minded. They're in your field, whatever it is, and they're trying to do well. And you pay some money to be a part of this. You pay money to be around others who are doing it at a higher level than you. So we were just at a mastermind, the driven mastermind, might as well say it. Great mastermind, great marketers. The thing I took away, and it goes into our arena segment, Dmitri, the man in the arena, is these last 2 weeks. I've been getting kicked in the balls business wise. Two different businesses just going crazy on me, and I've been wearing it. Dealing with it, but I've been wearing the stress of that. Long story short, I had a conversation with Dmitri and a couple others, and you get around these other entrepreneurs, and Dmitri reminded me, hey, I'm in the arena, I'm in the ring. And if I'm in the ring, I can't really complain about getting punched in the face or even getting knocked out. It is baked in to this sport. Same thing with business. Same thing with us being entrepreneurs. When you are playing games, trying to play big games, you can have big wins and you can have big losses. Either way, you keep them moving. That was one of the most important things I took away from that, Dmitri, and I thank you for it. And then one more thing. I got a text yesterday, Dmitri, from a homeboy of mine, Jerome Myers. Real cool cat. Big in the multi-unit space. He sent me a picture, Dmitri, of us at that after party at that dude's crib, and it's a picture of a bunch of people or whatever. And then somebody must have posted it on LinkedIn, and my homeboy sent it to me, and he sent it to me with a bunch of eyeball looking emojis. He's like, "Yo, I see you surrounded by some big names." I don't fucking know if they weren't in, even if they were in Driven, it doesn't guarantee I knew their name. If they weren't, I definitely didn't know their name, but there were people in the room. The guy hosting it was somebody. The people in the room were a bunch of somebodies. Somebody saw me with a bunch of somebodies and sent me a picture of it or whatever. I had no freaking clue. The whole point of that, though, is it reminded me of why we get into these things, because we're trying to get around these people, not because we're trying to leech. I know, and I'm about to shut up everybody, but not you get around these people, not to leech, not to see what you can get from them, but it's the whole show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. You get around people doing big shit and you're around them long enough, you're going to strive to do big shit. You get around people doing small shit, you're around them long enough, you're going to strive to do small shit. So those were my takeaways.
Chris, I think that's perfectly said and very eloquently put, that it matters to get around other people so that they can influence you, you can influence them, and you're both driving each other up and up to wherever it is that you want to go. In this case, the Driven Mastermind is all about being driven and making more money, building your business, and getting a group of people, like they say, a bunch of us misfits together who are always looking to improve. And that's actually one of the things that maybe is something to keep in mind as you get in a room like this and all of a sudden you just want to go, drop all your other priorities and just work on this one thing, or your business. But of course, there's so much more in life, and we got to manage our priorities. And that's, I think, in the conversations that you and I have and many others in the group, that we decide what's your biggest takeaway, because we know we can't do quite everything, but let's at least do one thing.
Yeah,
Let's do the one thing.
absolutely.
And another part of it is that mindset adjustment that we always need. And you kind of talked about there, a little mindset adjustment. I will say it's always easier to give the advice than take the advice. So congratulations to you for actually taking it and running with it, because that's definitely much, 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 much harder said than done. So good on you for doing that.
Appreciate it, brother.
Well, let's jump in, and I know we're both excited. And by the way, before we do jump in, we were talking about this podcast to some of the members, and they were quite offended that we didn't have them on as guests yet. We did explain to them we're just getting this thing started, but I do think we have quite a few impressive and big name guests coming in the near future. So everybody be on the lookout for that. And if you are a listener that wants to be a guest, and you have something to share in the marketing world, we just spoke to, we had dinner with this lawyer from Dallas, Texas, and he just gave us this amazing, amazing rundown of how marketing is the essence to winning a criminal case in the justice system. So we're going to have a lot of amazing guests for you guys. I'm excited for that. Chris, what do you think?
Man, the guests are going to be dope, so you don't have to sit here and listen to me and Dmitri the entire time. You get to hear from somebody who was, you know, eloquent, and is that the word? Is that the word to look? I don't.
That's
Anyways, okay. And so, but the lawyer guy, to Dimitri's point, was just fascinating, and it's funny. Just this afternoon, I told my wife I wanted to tell her about that situation because it is fascinating. And it is scary as fuck. You could go to jail, right? If you put yourself in that situation, or if you got put in that situation, it's scary to know that it's marketing. It's marketing principles. It's emotion at the end of the day that will either land you in jail or keep you out of it.
I think that was quite almost like a breakthrough for us, because we thought, I think all of us at the table were just sitting there listening with our eyes wide open, and our jaws hitting the ground. But just, we thought that the criminal system for the most part was based on evidence and just data or whatever else like that. It's, you did it, can you prove that you did? But as the lawyer, and his name is Jeff Hampton, by the way, hope to have him on at some point soon. He was telling us that, and he was telling us there's so much more to it. It is marketing, and you are dealing with people. So anytime you deal with people, as we know, it's all about how do you make them feel. And Chris, you taught me that first. So he just reinforced that. And I felt like I was a kid watching a movie from the
Yep.
50s or something about law. And it was just so much fun.
I mean, I know we got to move on to the topics here, and I'll just tease this, but guys, this dude was prosecuted where he really learned this lesson. He was prosecuting somebody who was on the cop camera, getting filmed, being pulled over, and tossing crack out of his window. Right? He's prosecuting a guy who's been on camera, tossed crack out of the window, and he lost the case. He lost the case because he was just trying to point out the facts and facts, facts, facts. And the defense attorney just played the emotion game. Just played the emotion games. Played the emotion game to the point where somebody can commit a crime on camera, on a cop camera, and get away. Fascinating stuff. I look forward to talking to him more.
Yeah, likewise. But that brings us to our first topic, which I think is kind of related to crack out the window, but this is maybe a little bit less against the law, although they both are Schedule 1 drugs according to the FDA. And we're talking about cannabis. Cannabis is, funny enough, legal in certain states, in certain cities, but very much illegal federally still. Now, there is a compound that doesn't contain the hallucinogen of THC. It's just called CBD. And so what's going on right now is that the FDA is cracking down on these CBD sellers for unsubstantiated claims that they treat cancer, help with anxiety, help with seizures, and other things that maybe haven't gone through the rigorous FDA process. So these companies are feeling that hit. And Chris, what do you think? What do you think about this?
First of all, that was an excellent segue. I see you with the host skills. Impressive, Dmitri. Second of all, I think that when it comes to these CBD things and these claims, that if, and I don't know, this is not like, this is just an opinion. I don't know the legal ramifications of what I'm about to say, right? And so, with that said, I think that if I'm that CBD company, then I'm going to get more creative with these claims. So, as a CBD company, taking this one step back, if you as a person walk around saying, "Hey, hey, I'm awesome, I'm awesome, I'm awesome," nobody really cares. But like, if other people are talking about how awesome you are, then that will land better. In the same case with these CBD companies. Okay, don't make these claims. Like, you can't go around making these claims, but you can interview your customers, your true fans, and have them give testimonials. And if they hint towards those claims or make some of those claims, then what can you do about it? That's just a testimonial. So I would just get more creative. And because everybody, if somebody's coming to take the CBD stuff, they don't like find your specific product, your specific brand, and then go learn about CBD. It happens the reverse. They heard something about CBD. It could help them with this, that. They already have an idea. Then they go searching for CBD. And so you don't really need to say it. It's already in their mind. They're already searching it for a reason. So you just need to find a way to reinforce it without saying it.
I kind of have a bone to pick with the FDA here. And I think many people all across the country and maybe even around the world kind of have a bone to pick with the FDA. Because much like the law in a criminal justice situation is not strictly based on the letter of the law or the facts on the ground, I think the FDA approaches many pharmaceuticals or supplements in the same way, where depending on who is running a certain company or what member of the FDA used to work at a different company, they may come at one company or another. So in this case, they sent this letter directly to the president of Curaleaf Incorporated, which is a CBD company, and specified specific language off of their website that the FDA finds unacceptable, including how to use CBD oil for anxiety. Can CBD oil be used for ADHD? Question mark, which is pretty vague in that case. They how to choose the best CBD for you, and so they're saying some of the most common reasons to use CBD include chronic pain, mental conditions like anxiety, depression, and PTSD. So here's the problem. In this particular case, it's very difficult to run a FDA approved trial on a drug that is federally illegal, that is a Schedule 1 narcotic, that is part of cannabis. So the FDA is saying you can't run this because it hasn't gone through our specific process. And here's language that we don't like. They're not saying, well, here's what you can say instead. And so it makes it, to me, it makes it very confusing for a business owner to go from here. Yes, he would probably want to be more creative and get more creative with this copy, but where does it end? And how does he know that what he puts isn't going to get his company shut down? And it's illegal, very illegal federally, yet very legal on a state or city level. So it's just me putting myself in this guy's shoes. I would kind of be wondering not how do I get more creative, but who do I know that's going to help me with this from a legal perspective?
I think that's very jujitsu of it, right? It's like, instead of fighting against it, um, I think both takes can be very creative, right? So you can get, okay, in my with the way I feel about getting more creative. Okay, the situation is how it is, then how can I adjust, right? And in your situation or your example, it is what it is. how can I adjust? And your recommendation here, getting with a lawyer or so that can kind of push back against this. Um, but me, man, fuck all that. I would probably, like I was saying earlier, I would just find a way to get it said without saying it. Because again, in this specific case, I see what you're talking about with the FDA overall. But in this specific case, when it comes to CBD, if somebody's looking to take CBD, they already have, thoughts in their head about it. There's a reason why. So you can find ways to confirm that without saying it. Just get creative.
Well, you're the master copywriter, and I would actually be quite curious to see what, just for fun, if you were selling a CBD product, how you would frame it, or there's a process to it, some kind of step of take them from this ad, elevate them to a certain landing page, then finally get to the product. And I do think that's a good point, that most people aren't learning about it. They already learned about it. Now they just want to buy. But in this case, this company is teaching people about it. So I guess maybe they have to stop teaching about it, but somebody's got to teach you about it. Now, on the other hand, of course, there can be some snake oil salesmen who are saying, buy my tincture and it's going to solve that problem. And that's definitely not a good thing to be doing. That's where the FDA or some other agency, that's what it's there for, to step in and do. This CBD one, like in particular, that like this specific compound is complicated because, as far as I know, and I for a little while ran a CBD for pets business, and it really does seem, based on my research, that it's at least not bad for you. Okay, so that's very important. But there is evidence that it could be helpful. So it kind of sucks to have to maybe limit how many people or animals consume it, because the states and the federal government can't get along as far as laws at this point.
Yeah. And then to go back to what you were saying initially about how I would do it, I don't know. You have more experience with the CBD products than I do, but what I would do is look at what the top. There's got to be a leader in this industry, somebody who's crushing it. So there's a way they're doing it. So I'd find out what they were doing, and then make that whole marketing campaign, make my version of that. But again, I like the aspect of getting customers to speak and hint to or hint towards these benefits without the company saying it. But I don't know if that gets them off the hook legally or not. Like, I wouldn't want the customer to come out and say, "Hey, I took this. Now I can sleep better." Like, I'm not sure if they could do that, but there might be another way you could say it.
I really like that you reinforce that point in a lot of our episodes, is that you simply look at what's working already, and that's a lot of what we get at the mastermind too. Things that we may already know, just need it
Yep.
reinforced. So, just okay, who's not getting sued and who's getting good sales? Let's talk about that. Okay, well, here, let me try another segue, that going from cannabis to Gen Zers, who, well, actually, I don't know how much they use cannabis. I'm sure they use it quite a bit. I know vaping is maybe the more popular thing for that generation. Uh, I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, we want to talk about Gen Z and how marketing is being affected by this generation born between 1997 and 2012. There's apparently 68 million of them in the US. And I think we all know them as the really good with electronics because they grew up with all this. So, Chris, tell us what's going on with Gen Z right now.
In your whole cannabis thing with the Gen Z, I would, if I had to bet, I would bet that they take it, they get. I would say that they probably use it a lot, or more than my generation did at their age, because of the access. It's just so easy now, bro. When I was younger, vaping was like it was a fantasy. Like, if I got with some rich people who had some vaping machine, like that was known as the top way to consume cannabis, and it was cumbersome. And if you could do it, man, it's the premium of smoking weed, dude. Nowadays, I mean, everybody's just walking around with a vape pen, and you don't know what they're smoking. So I'm saying, and then for me to get it back in the day, you had to know somebody, and it was terrible quality. It was out of Mexico dirt with a bunch of seeds in it, all this stuff. You could just go fly to a state. You could go to a city where it's not legal in the state, but for whatever reason, the city's like, screw you. We're just going to sell weed or sell. It's just so easy to get. So I would assume from the sheer ease that they're using it more. I know that wasn't what you asked me, but that's what the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, well, I think you're referring to our couple days in downtown Austin where THC is highly illegal in Texas, yet in the entire downtown smelled like we were going through Denver, Colorado.
Yes, straight up, dude. But okay, the push towards marketing towards Gen Z. I never worked for any corporation when it came to marketing, so I'm not sitting in a room with a bunch of people figuring out what's best. I don't have all the research, don't have all the data. Intuitively, as a marketer, from my vantage point, I think this is stupid. Like, I don't get it. Like, don't get me wrong. If you are a fast food company, um, soda, video games, these things that, I'm not eating a ton of it. We talked about this before, Dimitri. I'm not eating McDonald's, but some Gen Z kid is. I'm never eating Taco Bell again. I know, like, I don't, but some Gen Z kid is. If that's the case, well, then it makes sense to have your ads and your campaigns saying the lingo, speaking the jargon, all that makes sense. But like, if you're a general company, I don't think the money's where the Gen Z is. There is some money there, but the money's going to be your millennials and your baby boomers. And I skipped Generation Z or what? No, not Generation Z, but millennials. What's before millennials or something else?
Gen
Uh,
X, which is a
Gen X.
very commonly forgotten and ignored generation, it seems like.
It
Even
it seems
though,
like it.
yeah, according to this one site, there's people born between 1965 and around 1980 are considered Gen X, and there's about 65 million of them, which is about the same as Gen Z, and they have way more money than Gen Z does. But they do seem to be overlooked. It was either baby boomers or millennials.
I would put my stuff towards those areas because they have more money at this point. For example, we see that with I think it's State Farm. We talked about this before. But I think State Farm, they're bringing Ludacris in their commercials, and they're saying how it's ludicrous or whatever. But they're bringing the rapper Ludacris. That's the millennial, Gen X type people who are listening to that. That makes sense because now here we are. I'm 43, and I do care about insurance. I do care about my home and auto insurance and all that. You put Ludacris in there. I remember Ludacris, and so that type of advertising makes sense to me. But the Gen Z stuff, especially for some, like, if you had a Gen Z commercial for insurance, I don't think that those people really care.
Now, Ludacris was fun. I liked his song "Rollout." I used to try
Yeah.
to sing all the words to that one, and then it got a little too fast there. That was a good song anyway. There was just to add a little context to this, why we're talking about Gen Z and marketing. We found so many different companies now. To your point on fast food, and maybe this is a good idea, but Pizza Hut hires a new CMO to lead the transformation into younger, more culturally relevant brand. And Gen Z do care about being culturally relevant. I want to come back to this point because I think it's the most important one. But Southwest is, oh no, not Southwest. That's which one was it? Southwest we're talking about next. Hold on, I have the next one. Oh, it's Sprite. Sprite is bringing
Yeah.
back uh, a campaign specifically for Gen Z. Puma, the apparel and shoe brand. They say there's an article that says why Puma is undergoing a marketing transformation and targeting Gen Z. And so all these companies are seeming like all of a sudden focused on Gen, like, oh crap, it's almost like they missed the boat on Gen Z. It's almost like it's too late in many of these cases that they're going in on it. And my perspective on this is that, number one, I think Gen Z has more money than previous generations at their age. And I don't mean that necessarily even relative to the other generations, but, and maybe I'm just in a weird circle, but I feel like a lot of the Gen Zers that I know, they're like got great jobs. They're making six figures and up right out of college and living in really great apartments, good disposable income. There are a lot of really motivated people. You know, millennials were always known to be the lazy ones who expected to be paid, 500 grand for an entry level job. Gen Z never seemed to have that attached to them, that stigma. And they seem to just be satisfied with what they get, which ultimately actually gets them paid more. And here I'm coming back to that CMO, the Pizza Hut headline, which is younger, more culturally relevant. What these Gen Zers seem to care more about than anything else is to be culturally relevant. And this might get into how brands advertise in general moving into the future. Just before I keep going, just on that point. So, Chris, what do you think?
Culturally relevant. I want to make sure I fully understand this. So this would be a commercial that's using the jargon and news topics or whatever it may be that a Gen Zer would be into, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, if you're trying to, and Pizza Hut CMO is a younger person, I would assume to do this, or is it an older person?
I don't know the age,
Oh, yeah, okay,
but
never
the
mind.
name is Jana Uleti. We could probably look that up.
I don't know. As we're talking, man, I think I'm just an old, salty dude, kind of already. Or I'm starting to enter that stage where I don't
I
give a
think we
fuck about this.
established that on the last
Yeah,
recording.
dude, I don't care about this young shit. Like I don't. There could be a lot of money to be made here. I'm sure there is. Otherwise, they wouldn't be moving towards this. There's got to be some data that supports why they should make this move. But to me, I'm not the person who needs to be in the room because I'm like, dude, like let's look at Puma. I think of Puma, their shoes and their sweatsuits and stuff, right? Like I wear sweatsuits, and do the Gen Zers wear sweatsuits now, or like I don't see a Gen Zer walking around in an Adidas sweatsuit. I see like some older black dudes like me, maybe some Eastern European cat, or something like that. But I don't see them wearing a lot of sweatsuits. The shoes, like the shoe game, they will pay a lot of money for shoes, yeah. But at the same time, it's not like when you and I were younger, Dimitri, where it was like, oh, you got the newest set of Nikes or the latest Reeboks, or like there was only a few brands that you bought, and these brands were relatively expensive. Where nowadays these kids don't really give a shit, they'll wear whatever. Like it could be some Kanye expensive stuff. It could be these, I don't know, $5 shoes. Like it doesn't really, I don't think brand really matters with them anymore. And so you have brands like Puma pushing it. And I don't know, dude. I think you're kind of doing an uphill battle because I don't think Gen Zers care so much about brands when it comes to clothes for the most part. Pizza Hut, that makes sense because Gen Zers are probably buying Domino's, probably buying Pizza Hut and all that. And then the Sprite thing, the Obey Your Thirst, that one is the most intriguing to me because they're bringing Anthony Edwards in. I don't even know who Anthony Edwards is. I've heard of his name. I have an idea of who he is. This is coming from a guy who used to play a lot of basketball. And I know the most about basketball as a sport, like X and O wise, but I'm not really familiar with Anthony Edwards. But he's for the Gen Z. But then they're using Grant Hill to voice over it. So I think from that standpoint, they're hitting both. You're having my generation who remembers the Grant Hill Obey Your Thirst movement and all that with Sprite. And then you have him ushering Anthony Edwards. So now you kind of hit both. Out of all these ones, that one makes the most sense to me because they're bringing something back from the millennial time, borderline Gen X, and they're using that to usher in Gen Z. And as I'm talking, that approach makes the most sense to me out of all this.
I put together this quickly. I wrote on this post-it note. And here's what I'm thinking is happening. and I'm going to skip, just like everybody else does, I'm going to skip Gen X in this. So baby boomers, when they would buy something, the question was, how will it work? Will it work well? Will it get the job done? Millennials buying something was, how will I look? How will I look buying this? How will my friends see me? How will random strangers on the internet see me? And now Gen Z, their question is, how will I feel?
Hmm.
How will I feel buying this? Will I feel like I'm part of that group? Maybe. Will I feel good about myself? Can I relate to this brand? And we were talking about this kind of at some point, where brands are probably built more so about, when somebody buys your product or service, does it reinforce their own view of themselves or how they want to be seen? So if I buy Sprite, if I buy and drink Sprite, is that going to align with my values? Or but let me try to put it differently. Do people who drink Sprite, is that a group I want to be a part of?
Hmm. I like the point of what that's. I really like the point you just made with the baby boomers, and what they were thinking when they bought products, and the millennials, and then now what the Gen Zers are thinking. And I, I feel as though, from a marketing standpoint, it might not just be Gen Zers. It might just be a lot of people who kind of are concerned about how they feel um, prior to buying your product and after buying your product. As it relates to Sprite, I don't know how people feel about Sprite. I don't know what kind of culture. I know there's a lot of. I don't know. You tell me if I'm wrong, but the Sprite commercials I see, and it might just be because that's remarkable targeting for them. There's a lot of black folks in it. Like whether it's a comedy thing or they had LeBron carrying the brand for a while. You got Grant Hill here, Anthony Edwards. These are like a lot of black folks in this. Is black folks drinking Sprite? Like I don't know. Is that culture? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know who's drinking Sprite or Coke or any soda, but there are sodas that, for example, we both recently learned that we like the Spindrift soda. And my guess, when I drink a Spindrift soda, here's the person that I'm agreeing to be. Basically, by drinking that, I am the person who likes taste because it's a nice grapefruit taste, and we agree that's the best flavor, hands down.
Yep.
It's got it's got the carbonation, but it doesn't have the sugar. And so, what type of people do that? Well, entrepreneurs, younger, uh, cares about their health. So that's who I want to be when I buy that, and I feel that way. I don't know about Sprite though.
Yeah, I don't know about Sprite either, but you got me processing and leaning towards the way Gen Zers are buying stuff is starting to become the way people in general buy stuff, and we've seen this historically. You see it with a Harley Davidson person, right? You ride a Harley, it's going to say a lot. You might even have a Harley tattoo. Like it's not just a product that person's buying. It's a culture. It's an identity.
Yeah, and so in the next segment, which is kind of piggybacking off of this, we want to talk about Southwest, which, according to this one author, is finding its swagger again with the Big Flex campaign. Chris, you and I were talking about, like, to what generation is the word flex appealing to?
Got to be Gen Z, man.
Something about these Gen Zs. And there's probably some kind of mindset. We were talking about mindset at the mastermind. See, by the way, guys, Driven is amazing, but any mastermind, guys, you guys really should join, because talk about a lot of things. We talked about thinking big, which is so cliche and all, but when we're talking about, like, Gen Z can think big. They can, uh, if they want to fly to across the country tomorrow, they don't have any kind of weird hesitation about it. Just go and maybe get a Southwest ticket and go do it, rather than, well, I got to plan this. What do I need to pack? who do I need to tell about, like all these different steps that maybe previous generations have to go through before they plan, and it's a lot more stressful for them. So I don't know, maybe Gen Z, that they're the next big flyers, obviously.
So, what are your thoughts on this with Southwest and the whole marketing initiative?
Well, they Southwest is an airline, and airlines are very difficult businesses to run, apparently, because they constantly go bankrupt. All the biggest airlines are always going bankrupt. The only reason United and American Airlines and all the major brands, other than Delta, I will say, I think they're the only ones that are more responsible. But I'm not actually 100% sure. But we talking about United, American. The only reason they didn't go bankrupt during the last financial crisis because they literally got bailed out by the government directly because they're being very irresponsible, cutting costs. We're seeing a lot of budget airlines come in, as we all know. Spirit, Frontier, Europe has even more budget than that. Airlines where if you try to bring anything on than yourself, they're gonna send you to jail or something. And my point is that airlines are always short on cash, it seems. So even in the case of Southwest, if they had problems before, uh, or whether they're JetBlue, that are more known to be a better brand, whoever you are, you need all the help you can get. So whether if you're gonna get Gen Z as your next customer by talking about flexing, then by all means go for it.
I don't know, man. When I was looking at this article, the author of the article was talking about, this is one of their first big steps into repairing their brand identity, and it kind of reinforces your point. It's another addition to your point where they need all the help they can get, all the help they can get with people buying tickets, and maybe some all the help they can get with the brand. I When it comes to if you want to like go after Gen Zers, big flex, blah blah blah. Okay, you're kind of there. Southwest is known as a more affordable airline. At least they were to me growing up. I remember watching the Southwest Airlines CEO rap once. This is like in the early '90s. This is not like something popular to see a older 60-year-old, 7-year-old white guy rapping, right? So I kind of liked the vibe they gave off. But when they had an issue in 2022, I believe, and it was the holiday season of 2022, and it was a big issue. It wasn't a good look. But until I was reminded of that, I forgot about it. And I mean, we talked about this before, Dmitri. I was with Wells Fargo when Wells Fargo did all their shit, and I'm still with Wells Fargo. So I would assume, like right now, I fly American Airlines out of Dallas Fort Worth, right? Like it's just easy. I have an account with them. I have miles. Like if something went down with them, I probably wouldn't switch. I've There's been times where I've had a bad experience with them, missed a flight or whatever it was. I'm still flying American Airlines. Um, and so with Southwest Airlines, if you live next to an airport in Southwest, you've been flying out of Southwest historically, you have points, or it's just more convenient for you to use them and it's cheaper, and some shit went down with them at this point, I don't think anybody remembers except for the people who were directly impacted, the people who might have missed whatever holiday it was. Those people, I can see why they might not fly Southwest. When you start doing brand repair, in my opinion, or if you start bringing up brand repair, or people are bringing up brand repair, all you're doing is reminding them of the issue. I think it's better to act like that. It's better to act like that shit didn't happen and just keep moving. Like acknowledge it if somebody brings it up, but like I think Steve Sims said this best. I forgot what it was, but He used two examples. I'm going to butcher them, but one example at the end of the day was some shit went down. The person like went publicly, acknowledged it, went on an interview, blah blah blah. It just became bigger and bigger because this person was acknowledging it and bringing energy and bringing energy to it and bringing energy to it. Some other shit went down with this one guy. Everybody's sending this is it goes viral. The big issue with this person never comes out with a public statement. Nothing. They just simply fixed what everybody was complaining about and kept it moving. Never gave it any attention. That is brilliant. Don't get me wrong. In certain situations, shit has to be addressed depending on the context, right? But in this situation, I don't think there's any brand repair that Southwest needs to do. Just make some cool commercials, sell your tickets.
It would be kind of Jedi if articles like this were written by competitors or they were paid by competitors. Like, hey, keep bringing up that thing that Southwest did in 2022 so you can remind everyone. Because it actually doesn't really even seem like these ads are related to that. They're not apologizing for that snafu or anything. It's just like new commercials. So kind of, hey, other airline executives, you guys can hire Chris and we will ninja some subconscious reminders for people to not fly Southwest. And you make a great point. If you're already, it's very convenient for you, going to fly it. But I think in many cases, it's like, which one do I pick? It's just like same price, same whatever, including bags or not including bags. And so those are the people that we really got to convince. And I think there's actually maybe something to this idea. What do you think?
I think so. I think it's brilliant. Like that's a brilliant competitive strategy to have articles going out talking about a campaign in this situation. Like, hey, Southwest is up to this good stuff, and it's all because they're trying to clean up this shit they did back in 2022. That would be a brilliant move from a competitor to flood blogs with stuff like that.
All right. Well, if anybody knows the CMOs at American, we're here to chat, and we're in Dallas, so let's talk.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to our final topic, which is something that I gotta say I'm surprised by this company. I was wrong about it. I was very wrong about it for a very long time. And the company is Netflix. When this must have been 15 years ago when they were transitioning from sending you CDs in the mail, DVDs in the mail to streaming. Now, looking back, it's so obvious. Yes, they're going to do streaming. But I remember 15 years ago, I thought Netflix was going to zero. But they had this amazing pivot. They did go streaming and they took over the market. And fast forward to today, seems like one of their biggest problems is password sharing. And I will admit, although not under oath right now, but I will admit that I've shared my Netflix password before. I'm not saying I'm doing it now, although I'm not saying I'm not. But the point is, I think a lot of people do it. So anyway, Netflix subscribers climb after password sharing crackdown. Fair or foul?
Okay, so they did that whole thing, that whole crackdown on the password, and all of a sudden some subscriptions went up. Correct?
Right.
Is that where you? Oh, geez, I read that wrong. I mean, shit, it seems like the proof is in the pudding, right? They cracked down, they got more subscribers. All right, cool. It worked. Also, I remember when I was first getting into the whole Netflix streaming thing or whatever, and I didn't have a bunch of money, right? And so it was a way. I might be defeating my own point here.
Well, let me just jump in so you can put that thought together. It's like it seems like it's the right move from a business perspective. Like this is a fair thing to do, and Netflix, you're paying for a service just like you might be paying for a SaaS. We're all paying for tens of SaaS, if not 100 at this point. Like there's so many AI tools and all this stuff that we're paying for, and it's one license per user. And same thing with Netflix. It's you are paying for your household. So if you're sharing with another household, they should probably get another account. And if I were an executive, I would do the exact same thing. Why not?
Yeah, I also think you can get creative with it. And so in this instance, it's hard for me to argue because it clearly worked. Subscriptions went up, right? It worked for them. Great. Another way to approach this could be what I thought when I saw this. I thought about that book, predictably unirrational or predictably irrational. Yeah, predictably irrational. Good book. And in that book, I forget the story, but there was this restaurant owner, and the restaurant became popular because, or one of the reasons the restaurant became popular is that people thought they were getting over on him with wine. I believe, like they felt like it's, for example, and this is not exactly what happened. I forgot. It's been a while since I read the book, but it's almost like you get a whole container of wine or canter, decanter, whatever it is. You get a whole thing of wine, maybe a whole bottle of wine, and you paid for half. But you walk away feeling like you're the one who gypped them, like you got over or something. So you get this feeling of I go here and I'm always winning. I'm always winning when I'm winning. But this is all by design. The owner of the restaurant wanted you to feel that. He wants you to feel like you're getting over, and you just keep coming back. You keep coming back, feeling like you're getting over. Well, who's winning? It's him, because you keep coming back. And so I think that Netflix could have pulled some version of this off, because these Netflix things that we're watching, they have their own series, their own, or like Netflix originals. I think they have video games on there now. They have all this stuff to where if you get more eyeballs on it, and some of these eyeballs are for free, there's still ways you can monetize it, right? There's still ways you can get some money off of this, yet make people feel like they're winning. That would have been another approach. Probably much harder, but very powerful when you leverage it correctly.
Yeah, and it's getting to be a tough business. Netflix is. It was a leader for a while, but now every single network has
Hmm.
its own app. So there's lots of competition. They're coming out with their own original content, competing with Netflix. This is completely anecdotal. I'm now talking about myself. Is I actually haven't watched Netflix in a long time because, in my opinion, there's nothing to watch right now. Hasn't been anything good in a while. And maybe there's some people who are sharing their password and they like some show, but eventually it's going to stop and they're going to look around and what's the next show? I'll tell you, like, for me, I'm all about, hey, great show came out. I'll subscribe to your service for a month. Once I'm done watching that show, I'm out because
Yeah.
you don't have anything good coming out anymore. Why would I stay?
Yeah. And I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. So I guess going back to the whole point here, good on them. It worked, man. But I think that there's other ways of gaining more revenue.
Well, look, I'm seeing some recommended articles here from this one, and there's apparently that Netflix wants to create Buzzler marketing as the streaming giant ramps up ad-supported tier. This kind of reminds me of Pluto TV, which is completely free but has ads. There's even I've started to get ads on Amazon Prime, and they're probably going to be pushing me to pay them a little bit extra to not get ads. Hulu, same thing. It's you can get it for ad or no ads, and
Yeah.
it feels like those ads are even worse than TV commercials used to be back in the day.
And so you're saying Netflix is coming out, they might be coming out with a version of Netflix that has ads, and then I
It
guess it's
looks to be
significantly
so.
cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah. Netflix looks to revenue diversification as ad business takes time to build, meaning maybe they're having a tough time at getting that to work, and that's why they had to do the subscriber thing. Um,
Now, I don't know. I think you brought up a good point. It has to be getting tougher for them. streaming platforms like you. People were streaming to cut the cable cord, and then all that's happening now is you might have had, a cable network that you were paying anywhere from, $60 to $100 for, depending on what you got. And then now people will cut the cord and get one streaming service that they were paying $12 a month or $20 a month. But now it's like, oh, you got Peacock, you got Disney Plus, you got this, you got that. And then all of a sudden you're right back to where you started. You got 6 or 7 different streaming services. You're paying more than you pay for cable.
And I could be wrong about Netflix again, but to me, reading all this feels like they've saturated the business. I mean, there's only so many people in the world. And even if we get the AI that we think we're all going to get and the robots that we think they're going to get, they're probably not going to care to watch Netflix and subscribe to Netflix. So at some point, you just run out of customers and you have to keep creating new content. Now, maybe that content creation is going to be cheaper. But to me, Netflix is kind of at this point played out. So they maybe would have to innovate something completely different for me to be interested in this company as a growth story from here. I'm probably going to be wrong about them as I was before, but this is my opinion at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't go to Netflix as much as I used to. I don't watch a lot of stuff. When I do have opportunity to go watch shit, I'll like hop over to HBO Max or something. Um, but yeah,
That's actually an interesting point. I'd like to kind of dive into that. Why do you go to HBO Max?
they tend to have things that I would be more interested in watching. Um, Either whether it be some anime or some documentary or some movie, I think that I have a higher likelihood of finding something that I'm interested in on HBO than I do on Netflix.
Got it. Yeah, and maybe Netflix is moving more towards a female platform. I wonder what the usage rate is by gender and age and all that stuff. But I know that they have those really popular reality shows of the dating shows, especially, which I mean I hear are good, but that's not a male demographic, maybe unless your wife ropes you into it.
My wife watches Netflix and she'll watch shit like that, or of all the people in the house, she's the one more likely to watch Netflix.
Um, Makes
Interesting.
sense. Well, all right. So those are our 4 topics, and I think we came up with some pretty cool analysis, especially about the different marketing by generation. And maybe there's something to this. Maybe something we can bring into our own businesses, and you guys, as the listeners, can think about how is it. A, do you want Gen Zers to buy from you? And if you do, well, then maybe you have to frame it differently. And if you do sell some kind of product that's not FDA approved, well, you have to be more creative. And that seems to be the trend is A, either use automation and AI, or B, everything now is distilling down into who's the most creative.
I feel you. As we're talking, I see some young kids walking, through my grass here or whatever. I should go out there and get off my lawn.
Yeah, literally. Get off the lawn.
Yeah. Yeah. Good points, Dmitri.
All right, Chris Gray, always a pleasure. Looking forward to next time. See you guys.
Peace.